favorite things. Thank you for pressing record, Brian. We are ready to go. I'm going to be talking about a few things today. I think it was last week or maybe the week before, Brian talked a lot about your right hand sounds and your melody sounds, things like that. I'm going to be talking about the other hand you have. You have another one on the other side, that's your left hand, and we're going to be talking about choosing a rhythm style. So if you're taking notes, which I encourage, that's how you remember things most of the time. You really commit it to memory when you write it down. So do that if you can. And on the top of this one, you can write choosing a rhythm style. It's a question I get asked pretty much every day. Hey, I want to play this song. What do I do? How do I set it up, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And my first question is actually for you, and that question is, what do you call that instrument you have? Most of you have there are a couple different brands that we carry. Lowry is the main one. We have Estes. Some of them say it on it, and some of them don't. We get a lot of people, they say, oh, come see my organ, or hey, you have a friend over, you want to show them your piano or keyboard. Well, scratch that. It's none of those things. It is, what do you call it? A virtual orchestra. Yeah, or somebody said in the chat, marquee. That's one of them. But you have several different types of virtual orchestras. Just like that. And that says Lowry Virtual Orchestra, but we also have SD. That is another brand and is the same thing. And why do you think that's important? Well, I'll tell you, because you're all muted anyway. That is important because your instrument does more than just an organ or just a piano. It does all sorts of things. You are basically hiring an entire orchestra. So if you haven't already, write that down, virtual orchestra. And your role in this virtual orchestra is band leader or conductor. That's another word for it. So just like Count Basie or Frank Sinatra or Glenn Miller, you get to hire your orchestra. And you can see that picture on the screen there, right? Nod yes, I think you can, hopefully.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Count Basie.
Count Basie. And what is he doing there with his arm? He is conducting his orchestra. And that is what you're doing with these instruments here. Okay? Super important. So we're going to get started with our first step one here of choosing a rhythm style. You put your music up on your music rack and you say, okay, now what do I do? You want to set up your instrument to play with your orchestra. So you want to hire an orchestra. So if you want to play something like a Count Basie type orchestra, if you want to hire his orchestra, there's a button on the instrument on the left side. These are called genres. So all these buttons on the left side, those are called genres. So that is step one of choosing a rhythm style, is by genre. So you have all these different choices here. For example, say you want to play a song by Hank Williams. What kind of style of music do you think that might be? Well, there's a finger pointing to it. It is country, or Johnny Cash. So on the smaller instruments, it's even easier. All you do is just touch the button and play. The larger the instrument, or the more choices, you can touch that button that says country, and then on the screen, maybe it gives you other options. So, for example, let's just do this. I'm going to use Count Basie as an example and say I want to play just a standard song, like one of Frank Sinatra and Count Basie's standard hits. So I'm going to touch the button that says Standards. All right, and away we go. So that was Count Basie and his orchestra. Hopefully you heard that okay. Was that loud enough? I didn't do a sound check. Not really? Are you shaking your head? Oh, that's a thumbs up. Okay. Was that loud enough, Brian? I can't hear you if you're talking. Was that loud enough, Brian?
It sounded great, man. It sounded great on
Okay,
our
okay,
end.
good. I just wanted to make sure so you guys can actually hear what I'm doing. All right, so all I did was touch one button. It said standards. It hired my orchestra, which was Count Basie in that example. Say you want to hire a different type of orchestra. Like I said, you have all these different genres. And a genre is just it's a fancy word for just musical style. So you have all those different types to choose from: Latin, gospel, big band, smooth, foxtrot, all sorts of stuff like that. That is a genre. So that is the easiest way to pick a style. If you know what the artist you're going to play a song by, their style of music, start there. Start with that. And this is another great example here. This is another way you can do this. If you have a lot of the E series instruments, E, Z, E, Y, E, X, and I'll get to this in a second, but there's another way you can do this too. You have another option which is called performer, okay? And performer is another way to choose how you want to hire somebody. So, maybe put on the radio, you listen to some music, and not every single song is full of drums and percussion and brass and woodwinds and strings. You might play a song on the radio that just has maybe somebody singing with a piano, right? You hear that all the time. And you can do that on these instruments here. So on a lot of the instruments, you have an option called performer. And there are different types. You have full band, which most of the instruments just default to. So if you hear all those sounds, that is a full band style. You can also say, I don't want to hire the whole band. I just want to hire the pianist. And you can touch that button that says pianist. Or I can say I want to hire a guitarist. You have those options available to you because, just like I said, most music, you don't always hear those things. You don't need drums and percussion all the time. I might want to play let's say a waltz, for example. But I don't want all that junk. I just want to hire a piano player. So I can touch the button that says waltz, or if you have some instruments, it says 3/4. And when I touch that over here, I can touch the one that says pianist. If you have a touch screen, it is the first dark option. See where my finger's pointing to right there? Kind of there. There is an option that says Southern 3/4. And when I touch that, all I get is a piano player. So instead of hiring a whole band, I just hired the piano player. When I teach this song in person, I like to lay out on the organ, and like a lady on a piano at a lounge. It's kind of fun. I won't do that here. Yeah, thank you. You don't need to see that here, but it's a lot of fun. You can just hire a piano player, and your right hand, the one that Brian talked about last week, that's your melody sound. So my right hand was singing the notes. My left hand was telling my piano player what to do. Now, you know, if you want to hire a performer rather than just the whole band, you can hire also a guitarist. And this is a lot of fun. Let's say I want to do, what kind of music do we want? Let's do a country style here. I'm just gonna, nah, I don't want to do country. I'm gonna do Latin. I like Latin music. I mean, I like country too. I just have an example later on. Okay, so I'm gonna play Latin music, but I'm just gonna hire a Latin guitarist. And that's all I get is just Latin guitar player. So when I play these rhythm styles here, if I have the guitarist button on or the guitarist rhythm selected on my screen, if I have that, that is what I get, is a Latin guitar player. Check this out. Just a guitar, very nice. You don't need all the other stuff all the time. It's nice to just sit down with a guitar player and play a song. Just like, you know, some of you might go camping, maybe not right now because it's 1,000 degrees outside. But when you go camping, you don't have everybody bring their instruments. You bring a drum set, you bring a clarinet, you bring a guitar. Somebody brings a guitar and just sings and plays guitar. You can do that with your instruments here. So to recap so far, I talked about 2 ways to choose a rhythm style. The first one was just generally by genre. So the style of music you want to play. If you know your artist, and hopefully you know the song that you're going to play. If you don't know the song, don't play it, right? This is your hobby. So if you want to play a song by, you know, Frank Sinatra, hopefully you know the song, and that's why you want to play it. You know, so I've seen some people put a song in front of them, and they're like, I don't know this one. I don't know what to do. You know, don't play it, you know? You're supposed to be having fun. This is your hobby. Play something you like. So choose the genre that artist plays in. If you're playing, what is it, the Gaithers, you know, they play what type of music? Gospel, hymn. You have a button that says gospel. Start there. And after that, you can do process of elimination. If you have other choices on your touch screens or if you have extra buttons, touch them. See what happens, you know. Are there any questions on anything I talked about so far? It's been kind of simple. I'm going to get more and more complex as we go along. But I talked about that as well as your performers. So you can hire, like I said, instead of hiring the whole band, hire just a guitarist, hire just a piano player, send the rest home. So any questions so far? You can feel free if you have one anytime. Raise your hand.
And guitarists are very thankful to be hired for anything. I'll tell you what.
Exactly, yeah. All right, Inez. Go ahead, Inez.
Okay, I always question normal and organ. So what you did now, did you have on normal or organ?
That's a good question, and I have it on normal.
Okay.
And actually on this instrument, the EYs, it's called an Inspire, the one I'm playing on, it actually says style setup. So it says style setup on this instrument. If you have an A series, it'll say normal. So normal rhythm presets. And this is what Brian talked about last week. And what that button is doing is that's focusing on your right hand. That's giving you a sound automatically. So when you play your right hand melody to go with your orchestra, or guitarist, for example, it's going to put a good sound to go along with that. So that's what that normal button's doing. That's what I have on right now.
Thank you.
Good question. Any others? All right. Well, I will move on here. This is absolutely my favorite way to choose a rhythm style. This is the third way, okay? This one is my favorite. This is actually like turning your instrument into a time machine. Okay, this is called signature styles. Do you guys know what those are? I think you can nod yes. I think a lot of you might. Whether you do or not, this is my absolute favorite thing because, rather than just pick a general style country or country shuffle, say you want to play a Johnny Cash song, but you want not just to hire a country band, but you want to hire Johnny Cash's band. See, look at that. On my screen here, this is just a general touch screen if you have those. Not everybody does. That's okay. You still have some signature styles in your instruments. Look at all these choices. Say I want to play Johnny Cash. Maybe I want to play something like Ring of Fire. Can you think of a good example on there that might work for that? Yeah, there's a style on there that says Ring of Cash. And this is cool because not only can I hire any old band, I can hire Johnny Cash's original band to play with. So I can transport myself back to, 1958 and hire his band and play. And it sounds just like this. Let me show you here. This is fun. Wowee! I get to hire his original artist. That's really, really cool. So a signature style, if you want to write it down, you can. A signature style, the definition or what it is a style based on an original arrangement. Style based on an original arrangement. So you have some in here that are just based on that artist in general, that song in particular. You could hear that introduction alone. You hear the original introduction for Ring of Fire. So if you want to play a different song, some of you might have a choice that says Intro 1 or Intro 2. You can actually use Introduction 2, maybe play a different song. And it gives you a little bit more of a general sound, but you still can hire Johnny Cash's original band. One of my all-time favorites, I like Glenn Miller a lot. I like to play Glenn Miller, and what's cool is I have him at my fingertips. I can touch two buttons, and now I have Glenn Miller's original orchestra. Just like the original. One of my favorite stories as well. This is where you can kind of turn it into a time machine here. I actually had a student at one point. I played a song for her. She was just sitting next to me here, and I was showing off some of the new styles on this certain instrument. And I played a rhythm on these instruments called Serenade. And it's for the song Moonlight Serenade, and it sounds magnificent. It is exactly like the original. So I was showing it to her and playing on it, and I turn over like, wow, this is sounding good. And then she's crying. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am sorry. Do you want me to stop? She said, no, keep going. That is the song my husband and I first danced to when we first met. And she was in tears. He had since passed away. But it transported her right to that time in her life where it brought out all the emotion. But it wasn't a negative emotion. It was a positive thing. She felt that, and it brought her right back there, which is super important. I have an old memory. This is just a side story. When I was a kid, my grandfather used to play vinyl records for me all the time. So he would put on one, and he had one by this group called the Ink Spots. I don't know, maybe you've heard of them. It was before your time. That was like the 1940s. Goodness gracious me. But there was a band called the Ink Spots, and he would put on their record, and he would say, hey, listen to this song here. And then the song would start. And that's the exact original introduction that I have in the Lowry instrument here I'm playing on. And what's funny is he would take the needle off and say, wait, I'm not done. Listen to this song. And he'd move the needle, and he'd push play, and it would sound like this. And I'm like, well, Grandpa, that sounds the same. And then he'd move the needle again, put on a different one, and it sounds like this. They had the same introduction in every song. So it was really, really fun that now when I sit at a Lowry here, like you see in front of me, I can touch a button that says Spots of Ink is that rhythm name, Spots of Ink. And I have the original ink spots that I can hire them to play with. So I'm just going to play with this really quickly as an example here for you. Very cool. So this is a lot of fun. You get to hire your original artists, and that one was a big one for me that I found in here because it just brought me back to that, and it's something I didn't even think about before maybe, and it just sparked that memory, and it's exciting. That's why music is an important thing because it brings back memories, it keeps your mind active. And did I play that spectacularly? No. Did I show off and do all sorts of different notes and chords? No, I played it very simply. But what's important is that I felt it while I played it. I went back to that. And let me answer a question here. Jeannie, you got a question there?
I do. Am I unmuted?
Yeah, go ahead. I hear you.
Okay. In the organs, you have songs that are built-in choices. I have an Easy 10. I have like 40 songs in there. Are those signature arrangements, or are they just arrangements that somebody put in there?
Some of them are original arrangements. If you have you have an easy 10 or an easy 4?
4.
4, okay, yeah. Some of the songs that are built into your song setup or your songs button, they will pick out an original band, yeah. I don't know if it's in the song setup for that, but I know in the Easy 10, they have a style called the ballad button. And when you touch it, it brings up a rhythm called Wonderful World, which is basically like bringing up Louis Armstrong's original band. And I think on the Easy 4, there are a couple of those. I know I think in the songs you might have, maybe Brian can tell me, do you have the 6/8 guitar in that? I can't remember if it's in the songs, but
I think that's on the Easy 10 first, and that's
okay.
the House of the Rising Sun signature arrangement if you do the minor chord intro.
Okay, yeah. So you have a couple different options in the Easy 10. I know that have signature styles that bring up an original arrangement. I know even your standards button, the first example I used, that's also a signature arrangement because when you touch it, the name of the rhythm is Frank and the Count because it's based on Frank Sinatra and Count Basie's orchestra. So I know you have a few of them. Obviously, as you move up different instruments, the more options you have, the more signature styles you have, like I get to play with all my favorite artists, on this instrument, and then on the instrument above it, I'm sure you have even more specific ones. I think there's a Taylor Swift style in one, if you like that. No, I'm just kidding. They don't have that. They have mostly the good stuff here. But, yeah, that's my answer for that. Do I have any other questions or anything else? Anybody else?
Winnie asked in the chat, which buttons do you push to get Glenn Miller?
That is a good question. I know that you have the Stardust Gold, Winnie, and that would be the big band button. So there's a big band button, and the rhythm on the screen is going to be called swing band. And I was going to say this later. I'll give you another cool thing you can do a little later on if I have time, but there's a rhythm called swing band. If you have an EY or EX series instrument, it's in the standards button. So it's in standards or big band. In big band, you have swing band. In the swing button, you have another Glenn Miller style called serenade. And that's if you want to play the song Moonlight Serenade. It's a nice slow Glenn Miller style. So look for the rhythm called serenade, and that is in swing. Okay? So that is the answer to that question. And any questions other than that? Because I've got something exciting coming up next, too. I think we're all squared away now. So so I talked about 3 so far. You can find a rhythm by genre. You can do it by performer. So you just want to hear a piano, touch that button. If you want to play with the original artist, that's called a signature style. The 4th way, this is when all else fails. You can hire an agent.
Ooh.
Yeah. So when you have, I think it's on the Easy 4 and Easy 3 as well, on up, you might have a button on your instrument that says Song Setup. This is my favorite button because I'm a dummy and I don't want to go looking through all this stuff. I want to just play the song, right? So what Song Setup does is it's like hiring an agent. We talked about hiring an orchestra, right? Say you want to play something like the Alley Cat song. Most of you probably know that one. I want to hire an orchestra to play the Alley Cat song with me. What kind of music is that? I don't know. That's not quite rock and roll. I wouldn't call it big band, right? So you might not know on your instrument, what button do I press? So what you can do is right on the screen there, or if you don't have a touch screen, right below the screen, it might say Song Setup. On here, it's on the screen. If I touch it, it just brings up an alphabetical list of songs. And what letter does Alley Cat start with? A, right? Sorry, I had to remind myself here. So, Alley Cat song. It's the second one on here. Alley Cat song. All I do is touch it, and my agent hired a band to play with. And my agent gave me a good sound to hire here. Gave me a honky-tonk piano. and then it put a fun sound down here I can try as well. So let's see what happened. All I did was touch Song Setup and click on Alley Cat Song. Ready to go. So the instrument did all the work for me, thank goodness, because I didn't want to. So it gave me a band to play with, it gave me a piano sound, and it even hired a cat. I don't think you have to pay a cat too much to hire him, but the instrument did it for me, so I didn't have to go out in the street and find a stray. So that makes it nice and easy for me. So Song Setup is one of my all-time favorite buttons because I don't want to do the work. I'm lazy. I'm going to show you another example here. If you have a touch screen, here's a cool thing you can do. Most of you might know this if you have it. But if you have a touch screen, I don't know if you can see that quite as easily there, but on my screen I have an alphabet keypad. If I want to play a song like, oh, let's say, Unforgettable. Do you know that song? That's Nat King Cole, right? Another one of my favorites. Rather than try to look through my style genres or buttons, I can just type in a U for Unforgettable. I think that starts with a U. And then it takes me to my song setup list. And up there's Unforgettable. And then all I do is I get the music out and play the song. So check this out. And what's cool about these song setups is they will hire, a lot of them, the original artist again. So this is going to be Nat King Cole's original band. Hold on just a moment here.
Beautiful. That's one of my favorite signature styles.
Yeah, and that's great because it played all the in-between stuff. You heard the strings do all the little flourishes. And it really is, if like I just put it on just right before this meeting here. I listened to the original song and I was like, gosh, this sounds exactly like the Lowry. You know, it's so cool. It plays it just like I said before. It's like getting in a time machine and it takes you right back to when it came out. Or obviously I might not have been there, but it took me back to a different memory I have that I associate with that song, which is a beautiful thing. It's good to have that those memories and bring them back anytime. And that's what your instrument can do as a time machine, take you right back there. Any questions on anything I said just then? Anything about the song setup, how that works, or anything like that? Inez, okay, go ahead, Inez. Might have to unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Okay. Am I allowed another question?
You're allowed one more question. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. My final question is, when I come across a song that's not in song setup, I get pretty frustrated because I just started, at the top of all these blue buttons and click and go through all of them trying to finally figure out if the sounds okay for that song.
Exactly, yeah, and that's where you go back to the first three kind of ways to choose a rhythm style I mentioned. First,
Yeah.
by genre. So if you know the song and the style of music, that's where you start. If you know it's a waltz, most of you have a waltz or three-quarter button, start there. If it doesn't sound right, what I do is, like I said, process of elimination. I'll touch the button, just hit any old chord. Like if I'm doing a waltz, I'm just going to touch waltz and press any chord. And then I might go, oh, that's too slow. That doesn't sound right. You have a tempo button as well. So that's what's nice to play with as well. If they're too fast, you speed them up. If they're too slow, you slow them. I said that backwards. Yeah, that's what a question I ask all the time. You have two tempo buttons. There's an up arrow and a down arrow. Which one slows them down? You can figure that out. Yeah, down. So you can play with the tempos, and it sounds totally different if you take a slow rhythm. Let's just use this for an example. If I pick my piano player, my standards piano player, whoopsies, wrong button. If I do my piano button, very simple, but if maybe I want to play something like a polka, all I have to do is double that tempo.
But what if you don't know what it is?
What if you don't know what? Like what style of music?
Yeah.
Well, that you should. Depending on the artist, that like if it's a country person, do country. If it's, like I said, Alley Cat song, I don't know what that would be. So you can try different steps. Try something that sounds close at first, like maybe it's a slow song. You have a couple different options. You can do smooth. You can do ballad. You can do soft and easy if you have that button. Those are just all different buttons. Start there. Play any old chord. And then say, I don't like that one. Pick a different style,
Yep,
So
that's what I
do. Process of elimination.
Yep.
If it's not in your song setup, you got to do it.
Pick another song.
Or you get whatever highest end instrument we have, and it's got, I
All
think
the
1,100 songs or something like that. So, yeah. All right. Any other questions here? I see a couple. So go ahead, Judy. Judy, I like seeing you here. Might have to unmute yourself. There you are.
Okay. When you choose a song in song setup, can you play a different song with that setup?
No, never. Just kidding, of course. Yeah, you could play. You could play any song you want. That's what's great is your instrument, how smart it is, and all the things it does. It's kind of dumb, and it doesn't know what you're going to play.
Okay.
If you choose something like one of my favorites, I like using the song setup for Aloha Oi, Oi, Oi Vey. I like using that one because it brings up a really, really nice Hawaiian band. But I don't remember that song, and it almost means nothing to me because the last time I was in Hawaii, I was 2 years old. I don't remember it. So I like that rhythm, though, for maybe playing something like, what's it called? I Can't Help Falling in Love, from Blue Hawaii, because I have seen that movie. I haven't been to Hawaii, but I've seen that movie. And he sings I Can't Help Falling in Love, and you can hire the band from Aloha Oi. So choose that song setup and then play a different song with that band. Does that make sense? So yes, you can definitely do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent question. And Stan, you got a question too there?
Yes, I do. It has to do with your second um, way of setting up for styles. I'll refer to my notes. On my symphony, I have one button, a performance button. It's piano and guitarist. When you use this button, are you using it with the different rhythm styles, or do you use it by itself?
On yours, if you have that pianist and guitarist category, that button where it's a group of rhythms like that, what you do is you touch the button and all those rhythms on the screen, those are all going to be pianist and guitarist.
I see. Okay, you select from those. Okay.
Yeah, so you don't choose a different one to kind of modify. You know, you choose one of those, and what it'll do is it'll do exactly what I said. It'll just hire a pianist. Like when you touch that Latin guitar, that was a rhythm I used.
Mhm.
I just touched Latin guitar, and that's what it did. It put just the guitar.
It sets the whole thing up for you.
You betcha,
Okay.
you betcha. And on
Thanks a
yours, if
lot.
you have other presets, Brian talked about this last week, if you have presets or setups, those are the numbers 1 through 10 in the center of your instrument, just
Yep.
like this here. If you have these buttons, what they do as well, a lot of the time, is they will change your background for you as well and modify it depending on which sound you choose. So this is an extra, this is bonus for you. So if you want to do, like, I'll go back to that Latin guitar example. And right when I started, I just had just guitar. If I touch a different number here, it'll bring in the rest of the band. So I can start with just guitar. I'll touch another preset or setup, same thing, and it'll give me the rest of the band. This is really cool. Check this out. So you hear that when I touch a different preset, it did bring in the whole band anyway, if I want that. So it's kind of a shortcut if you want to start a song maybe with just a guitar player and then say, all right, everybody, come on in, come join me. So super cool. So good
Thank
question.
you.
I know I answered that a little lengthy,
Like the
but thank
kids
you.
would say, that's cool.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
It's whack. Wait, is that? I don't know if whack is good or bad. I have no idea.
I think it's is it woke? I thought it was no,
Woke.
maybe-
I
don't
thought
know.
whack was like, oh, that's whack. I'm not hip.
We're not hip enough, I don't think.
That's why we do classes with you guys. You guys are our generation. It feels like I don't get along with my own age group, so I stick with you folks. Much better company. Any other questions on anything I've talked about so far?
We had one other one in the chat, Sean, from Winnie. It said, my keypad just has numbers, not letters.
If you have an SU series instrument like a Royale, Rhapsody, Stardust Gold, you have a keypad with numbers that assigns different instruments. So the right hand sounds. I know it looks like it's on the left, but the right hand. Those are your right hand sounds. If you have, I think it's an A series instrument like Prestige, anything above that, you can touch another button on that screen. Let me, I'll do this and I'll show you real quick here. On your keypad, it'll show numbers by default. On the top left of that, some of you have it, some of you don't. If you have a touch screen, there might be a button that says alphabet. You can't see it from there, but trust me, that's what it says. It says alphabet. And when I touch it, it changes those numbers into letters. So if you have so many song setups, you don't want to go through all of them one by one and scroll up and down. Type in the letter. You know, if I want to play Mac the Knife, that starts with the letter M. Touch that, and then take me to my song setup list, and it takes you right to the M's. So that's kind of your shortcut there. I don't know how I got on that, but yeah, it's just you get a lot of different shortcuts on your keypad, but I think that starts in the A series. So check for it in the top left corner of your keypad, and if you don't have it, we have it, so come see us. All right, any other questions there? Let's see, what time is it? I've got just a couple more minutes. I don't need to throw it in there, but there's another option if you have it, just a couple for if you have these styles of instruments. 2 more ways you can kind of modify your rhythm styles. Some of you have a button called Alter Style. So I'll just do this example real quick. Say you want to hire that Glenn Miller Orchestra. I'm going to hire my swing band, my Glenn Miller sound, but I don't want to play In the Mood. But the problem is when I'm playing that, that's what it's made for. It's made to go with In the Mood. But I want to play a different song. I can press this Alter Style button, and it alters my band. It's the same band. It's still Glenn Miller, but it's telling Glenn Miller, hey, I want to play a different song, or I want to play something different than In the Mood. And now I get something that I can maybe play Tuxedo Junction with. So I can say, I don't want to play that song. I'm going to alter that style and play something else. So you can use it that way, or maybe you get midway through a song and you're just bored of that same background. You can touch Alter Style and it tells your band, do something different. So another on top of that I don't need to show an example for because I'm out of time is drum variation. You can tell your drummer to do something different, but the rest of the band stays the same. So it just tells your drummer, play something new, beef it up a bit, make it exciting. So that's all I got for today's class. I just want to kind of reprogram your mind so you can kind of think of it as not just an organ or piano or keyboard. You have a virtual orchestra, and you can hire whatever band you want. The more options you have, basically the more resources you have. If you have a hard time finding what you want, that's why the song setup comes in handy. That's why signature styles are very special, because you can not just play with any old band, play with your favorite bands. So it's an exciting thing that you have at home, and we thank you for investing in them, and hopefully you get the most out of them. And like I said, hire the orchestras you want to hire. They are yours. You already paid them, right? So if there are no more questions, I'll probably wrap up, and maybe I can play just a song just for fun to close us out. Anything from you, Brian? Any announcements?
I think just one real quick one before I do my announcement, though. I'm going to unmute everybody and let's everybody give Sean a big round of applause. That was a great lesson today. Very nicely done, Sean.
Good job.
Oh, Jason said I should give you a big round of applause. Everybody loves that. Okay, so I'm going to mute everybody again. I just have one very brief announcement before Sean does his finale today, and that is that we get another Arizona person featured for our Zoom musical this Friday. So Sean is in Arizona today. I'm not sure where in Arizona you are today, Sean, but he's coming to us live from Arizona.
Mesa, Arizona is
from
where
Mesa,
I am at right now.
From Mesa today.
Making a messa.
And isn't that cool that yeah, thanks, Jason. At the Peanut Gallery. That's what happens when you have more than one microphone in a store. But we're so happy that we can do this for everybody, and it's so cool that I can co-host a meeting in a class for Sean, who's across the country, and we got people from Arizona to Florida to the UK in this one session. So it's so cool. But the only announcement I have for you is that you got another Arizona person doing your Zoom musical, and that is Rick Anderson. Now, Sean told me I should be really pumped up about this. Now, I've actually never heard Rick play, so I'm really pumped up about seeing his show on Friday. And, of course, that is at our regular time. That's 2 o'clock Florida time on Friday. That's 11 o'clock Arizona time. And you guys are going to see Rick Anderson, and in my case, the first time seeing him play. So hopefully everybody will really enjoy that.
I've seen him play, and he
Have
is
you?
incredible.
Jason
I will
said
say if you
incredible.
touch,
Incredible.
I will say if you touch the keyboard after he uses it, it's kind of hot. You got to take a little
Burn your
break
fingers
after he plays because it's too hot, so fast.
Wow. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. So with that, having said that, I'm going to turn it back over to Sean for your finale number. Sean, thanks for a great class today, and take it away.
Great job, Sean.
Thank you. We'll just do one more song. I played too many slow ones, kind of. I'll play a kind of a faster one. One of my favorite artists to hire on here, a signature style. This is another old one. I'm playing all the old stuff today, I guess. This is the Andrews Sisters. I can hire them. I've got a boogie-woogie style. And right when I turn it on, my sound on the upper keyboard on the screen here, it tells me the sound name is Sisters because it's the original Andrews Sisters. So super cool. So I'm going to play that for you, and thank you for coming today.
Sean Maloney! Give him a big hand, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks again. You all have the ability, if you unmute yourself, you can say bye, you can say hi.
Bye.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Good job.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Anytime.
Bye-bye.
And we hope to see everybody on Friday at our Zoom musical, 2 o'clock Florida, 11 o'clock Arizona. Rick Anderson.
It looks like it's going to get worse though. And some rumble.